Thanks for joining me, Fix It Up Jack. I had a request to give you guys a formal introduction to my Mustang here, so that's what we're going to do today. I've done a ton of work on this car, definitely built, not bought, and I'm very proud of that. So I'd like to take you guys through some of the modifications that I've made and exactly how those improvements have helped the performance, and maybe give you some ideas about what to do with your car. All of the work you see here today has been done by me. This car has never been in a shop since it's been in my possession. I've done everything from welding the floor pans to rebuilding the transmission. I did all of the upholstery work myself, and it may not be the prettiest, but I even did the paint work myself. So I'll cover all of that today. And if you like this video, help me out. Give it a thumbs up, maybe subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and then leave a comment down below. Let me know what other projects you'd like to see. I've got plenty of them around here. I just need to know what you guys want to see. So give me some ideas, huh? Let's fix some things together. I want to show you guys the content that you want to see. I want to help you guys be successful in the things that you want to fix. That's what this is really all about. So come along, let's check out the car. We'll start up front with what everybody's interested in, the power plant. This engine is the original 289 that came with this car. I'm the second owner, but when I started doing work on this car, it became clear right away that it had been worked on before. When I pulled the cylinder heads, the pistons are marked 30 over, so it has had one rebuild in its life, and that's fine. It's really strong now. Starting on the top end, it was originally a 2-barrel car, and so I changed it to a 4-barrel. It's got a Holley 600 double pumper. Some custom linkage there, you can see, rod ended. It's a good strong carb. You can see the dual feed fuel line with a fuel pressure gauge on the back. This air cleaner is an aftermarket air cleaner. It was a chrome lid, which I powder coated myself and then added the appropriate 289 sticker to pay tribute to the original 289. The carb is sitting on top of a Y-end intake manifold, mid-rise, good performance, low-end torque, breathes well on the upper RPMs, so it's a good balance. And all of that is getting induction through a pair of AFR 165s. Those AFR 165s have 190 intakes and 160 exhausts. They breathe really well. Underneath these valve covers, I got the Ford Racing laser etched valve covers, and hiding out underneath there are the Scorpion 1.72 ratio roller rockers on pedestals. Those are being actuated by a set of 5/16 Comp Cam's high energy push rods. The push rods are being bumped around by a Comp Cam's 264 hydraulic camshaft. It's a really great camshaft. It's not too aggressive. It's perfect for the street without being too finicky or unmanageable. But when you put your foot in it, it really comes alive. I'll tell you what, picking a camshaft is maybe one of the most important choices you'll make. If you get something too big, the car's not going to be able to handle it, or the engine rather. 289 doesn't need to be anything crazy. Of course, keep in mind what your use case is. In my case, this was a daily driver car for 10 years almost, and obviously for driving to work and daily commute, going to visit my mom and going to car shows and stuff. I didn't want something that was just, you know, unable to use on the street. So I tried to keep it with something modest that would give me good power and be able to extract the most that I could get out of that 289, but without just being so lopey and low vacuum and, you know, having all those problems that are associated with big cams. So definitely be honest with yourself when you're picking a camshaft. It really changes the entire demeanor of the motor. It really changes the entire character of your engine. If you choose the wrong camshaft, you're probably not going to be very happy. And on top of that, one other note is, I'll tell you what, I've made this mistake in the past. On my first Mustang, I put the big induction on. I had a high-rise Y-end with a 750 Edelbrock that was just ridiculous, and that's where I really learned my lesson about being over-carbureted. It really is a thing. My first car, I put way too much induction, way too much carburetor on there, and it just choked the motor out. I felt that a little bit with this car when I put those heads on. I put all the intake stuff on, and it was still a little bit the same thing. It wasn't really until I made the swap with the camshaft that it really woke it up. So, you know, it's really true what they say. The cam is the brain of the engine, and you're never going to get maximum performance if you haven't done a good job choosing the right camshaft. So if you're going to spend a lot of time on any one component, like really doing the math and doing the research and figuring it out, that's where I would invest all my time and effort, is making sure to pick a camshaft that's going to work really well with all of your other components. Otherwise, you're just kind of throwing parts on there and the engine's not really going to know what to do with it. So that's my advice on camshafts. All right, once you have all of your camshaft science figured out, then it's time to move on. Here we've got 1 5/8" race tube headers that go down into a pair of cherry bomb glass packs with turn downs. Really loud, really obnoxious. Once I retired this car from being a daily driver, I was ready to really wake up the neighbors, so to speak. We'll take a quick peek down here, and you can see that's my exhaust. Full race tube headers right into the cherry bombs. And believe me, it's loud and it sounds good, but again, not super manageable for a daily driver. I wouldn't want to ride it every day like this. After about half hour, you're wishing you had earplugs. So, all right, let's continue on up here. We got the MSD Pro Billet distributor. I put the custom black cap on there because, as you can see, I wasn't doing a whole lot of red in this engine bay. I wanted to keep everything Ford blue, so I went with the black cap. That's a aftermarket piece. Unfortunately, MSD doesn't make a blue one yet. Your choices are red or black, so I went with the black. That's feeding these Ford Racing 8mm spark plug wires that come down. They have the blue heat protection boots on them. And of course, the ignition system is getting its signal from an MSD digital 6AL with the built-in rev limiter. And as you can see, also here, the MSD only comes in red. So I actually masked this one out and painted it body color. And then I filed off the tops of the ribbing to give it that nice contrast and still get the silver look on the top. So I think that came out really nice. That MSD box is giving its signal to this Blaster SS coil. Same here. This coil was originally red, and I masked it up, painted it body color to get everything nice and matching up. The water pump is stock. Put a flex fan on. The cooling is managed by a Northern aluminum radiator. It goes to a custom overflow, and there just below the overflow you can see I have a Holley fuel pressure regulator that uses AN fittings up to this Parker high temp fuel line and over into the dual feed for the carburetor. Everything is powered by a nice Exide glass mat battery, and it passes the current through a new starter solenoid down to a high torque starter down there. The fuel is supplied by a high flow fuel pump, and I think that just about covers it for the power plant. So now I'll talk about the transmission. This car, as I said, was an original V8 2-barrel C-code Mustang with a 3-speed manual transmission, 3-speed top loader. And that was a great transmission. I love the 3-speed, but who wants to stick with the 3-speed when you know you can bolt in a 4-speed? So after scouring Craigslist for a while, I found a 4-speed. It was about 3.5 hours away. Went and picked it up. It was a good core, good rebuilder. I brought that home and I went through it, blew it all apart down to the needle bearings, cleaned everything, polished everything, had a really nice rebuild kit. I'll put a link to the kit that I used in the description below. I highly recommend it. It came with a CD, digital media for the rebuild process. Guided you through step by step with excellent illustrations, all the parts you need, everything, great descriptions, how to rebuild that transmission. I think if you're handy with cars and you know how to do rebuilds, you can take on a transmission. There's no need to be nervous about it. You just follow along. At that point, it's nearly as easy as building a Lego set. So what can I say? They do a great job. So obviously when I redid the transmission, it got a new clutch package, which greatly helped the drivetrain. It was one of the major issues with this car when I bought it. The car had a really terrible rattle to it, and it made the owner very nervous. He wasn't sure, he wasn't positive if it was an issue with the motor, if it was an issue with the transmission. He really wasn't sure what to do about it. After I test drove the car, I could tell just by the smoothness of the RPMs that it wasn't an engine problem. That was highly encouraging to me. So it wasn't until a few days later, after I got it home, ran through a couple of tests, I was able to determine that it really only happened where the engine and transmission come together. That led me to the clutch pack. When I dropped the transmission and inspected the clutch, I found that it was a 3-finger style clutch, and out of the 3 fingers, one of them was bent severely, throwing the whole thing out of balance. I put a new clutch pack in, it was all back into balance, vibration gone, and started driving it right away after that. So I got an excellent deal on this car just because the previous owner wasn't aware how to address these issues and take care of them. So hopefully you guys, by watching my channel, you'll be able to take advantage of some of those great buys as well and fix it up for yourself. So moving along through the drivetrain, of course, it's still the original drive shaft that came with the car, but it's got U-joints done at both ends. And of course you guys have seen that I put a 350 locker in the back. I'll try to put a link to those videos here as well, so you can check those out. So that brings us along to the suspension. I've done tons of work there, so let's jump in and have a look at that. Come on. All right, under the front suspension here, we have a complete tubular rollerized suspension by Streeter Track. Hand fabricated roller spring perches made by none other than myself. The upper arms are on a Shelby drop plate with the Shelby drop incorporated. Sitting on top of the upper arms are 620 springs and KYB XLG shocks. The lower control arms have welded in camber plates, Shelby style. For braking up front, we have the CSRP 4-piston disc brake conversion, and it's all being kept steady by an 1.125" sway bar on polyurethane bushings. As we move back, you'll see a hand fabricated frame rail connectors, and I can tell you I was honestly blown away by the difference that made to the suspension and the rigidity of the body overall. My initial thought was, how can a little bit of box steel really change the dynamics of a car? Let me tell you, it's real. It makes a huge difference. It's hard to even explain. As we move on back, you'll see Shelby Underwriter traction bars. The rear suspension is from a Lincoln Versailles with the integrated rear disc brakes. So this car has 4-wheel disc brakes. The Versailles rear end is sitting on 5-leaf mid-eye leaf springs with polyurethane bushings and KYB XLG shocks in the rear as well. The live axle is the 9-inch big bearing axle from a Lincoln Versailles. I originally had the 411s in, but as I mentioned, it now has a 350 track lock. And as we move back around to talk about chassis, you'll see that this car has the Monte Carlo bar, as well as the Scott Drake Premium Export Brace. If we move to the interior now, you'll see I've tried to keep it a little more stock inside. Standard steering wheel, standard dash. I have a little tachometer here with shift lights built in. I put a new chrome bezel in for the gauges. They all work great. Everything inside works nice. I have a aftermarket heads-up display that also displays my speedometer. I have what looks like an AM radio, but it's actually the Model 1 Bluetooth stereo. So I can take phone calls, play my streaming music, everything here, but it just keeps that stock look to it, which is great. The radio is hooked up to Rockford Fosgate speakers in the dash and the rear tray, and it also goes to a Boss Audio 8-inch subwoofer amplifier package in the trunk. Here you can see I added in a couple gauges just because I had them laying around. This is an air-fuel ratio gauge from Innovate. That was left over from my turbocharged, fuel-injected MG Midget project, which someday I'll have to update you guys on how that build went. And I also have this vacuum boost gauge that was from that same turbocharged, fuel-injected MG Midget. Obviously this car isn't boosted, so it just acts as a vacuum gauge, but I figured I had the gauges, why not put them in here? So obviously I have a wideband O2 sensor in my header, and it feeds this gauge, and I can keep an eye on my air fuel ratios real time as I'm driving around. I can see if I'm running too rich or too lean, and it was really helpful in the tuning process. And each time I make upgrades, like with the cylinder heads, the double pumper carburetor, I could rejet, retune, and I could check the AFRs as I went. So one of the big stories here is when I bought this car, the floorboards were pretty well rusted out. It had a leak in the windshield and in the rear window, and that water just ran down, sat on the floor pans, and rotted them away until there was holes through. So I cut out and welded in new floor pans. Then after the new steel was welded in, it got Dynamat front to back all throughout. A new carpet kit from ACC Carpets with the proper sound deadening below, and then topped off with these deluxe Running Pony floor mats, and they're really great. I love the look. As for the front seats, the car came with the interior kit to replace the upholstery on the seats, so that was a kit that I took on myself, and I stripped the old covers off and re-stretched the new vinyl myself. Another one of those, first time for everything, so I tried that out, tried my hand at it, and I'm very pleased with the way it came out. And then up in the back window, you'll notice this little guy right here. And I'm pretty proud of this as well. One of the most dangerous things with owning these classic cars is a rear end accident. So I was able to make a nice LED third brake light for this car. It's super bright, gives me really great visibility, makes me feel way safer cruising down the road, knowing that I'm not relying on these little brake lights for my safety. Speaking of these brake lights, you'll see those bezels. They've been powder coated black, so they'll stay nice and shiny. A little trick I'll tell you guys about, these gas caps, it needs work again, but in order to keep this thing looking nice, a little bit of fingernail polish. I just went and picked up some fingernail polish, painted it in, and then wiped the surface off so that the color only stays down in the letters. And that'll brighten that right up. And then you have the red, white, and blue. 3 bottles of fingernail polish can keep that gas cap looking nice. Then you don't have to spend the money to buy a new one. So let's talk about the paint job. What you're looking at here, I did in my driveway with an HVLP spray gun, an Iwata gun. This is what's called a $50 paint job. This paint is Rust-Oleum paint, mixed 50-50 with acetone, and then shot through a standard HVLP gun. Obviously, I shot the safety blue first, then used my laser level to line out all of the runway stripes with the appropriate Carroll Shelby stripe layout. Masked it off and then shot the white. It's not the best paint job in the world. I would definitely put it in the camp of a 10-footer. It certainly looks nice enough for me to cruise around, but it ain't gonna win any shows, that's for sure. Overall, the theme that I was going for was sort of a Trans Am theme. So I have the turbine wheels with the white letter tires, BF Goodrich radial TAs, a bit of a stagger. I have 255 60 15s here in the back. and 225 60/15s here in the front. Going along with the Trans Am look, I put the rock guards on the headlights, a little bit of that road race vibe to it. I went with the early clear style turn signals, but there's orange LED bulbs behind there, so oncoming drivers can clearly interpret the turn signals. It's got the Shelby R model split front end with driving lights, but I kept the bumper for safety. And of course I added the Shelby style hood with the hood scoop. And I reconfigured the grille to look like the Shelby style grille. Alright, one other fine little detail to let you guys in on. Maybe you've noticed on my Instagram pictures or just in this video while I've been walking around, this number right here, 764. This number I'm pretty proud of. This car was in the Guinness Book World Record cruise-in for Mustangs in Woodburn, Oregon in 2014 for the 50th anniversary of the Ford Mustang. I was a participant in that cruise. This car made the whole journey, and I officially have a Guinness Book of World Records certificate with my name on it for being part of that cruise. And I just think that's cool. I've loved Mustangs for a really long time, so to be able to be a part of that 50th anniversary cruise, that was a big deal. I'm sure there's a million little details that I've forgotten to mention about this car. As one of my friends said, one of the best compliments I've ever gotten, he said, Jack has touched every single nut and bolt on this car. And when I look at it, I'm pretty sure he's right. I can't think of a single thing, piece, part, nut, bolt, you name it, that I haven't taken off and put back on at some point in time. I've been over this car every square inch. I've really put a lot of work into making it mine. The big joke is Mustangs are like belly buttons because everybody's got one. And sure, Mustangs are, maybe they are a dime a dozen. But I've really put a lot of effort into customizing this one, making it my own, setting it up just the way I want it. And I'm really happy with it now. The hardest part is deciding what to do next. One of the things I would like to do, and I've started acquiring the parts for this, I would love to fuel inject this car someday. I already have a crank trigger and a cam position sensor. I have all the coil packs, but I still need an ECU. I'll still need a return style fuel pressure regulator. I'll have to modify the gas tank, fuel lines. I've been down that road before, and let me tell you, that will nickel and dime me to death. It seems like every time I needed another part to finish the project, it was a $50 bill, $50 bill, $50 bill, and it really adds up. So this car has really sort of reached a point where anything I'd like to do at this point is going to cost big dollars. If I wanted to do the fuel injection upgrade, or perhaps looking to do a T5 manual with overdrive swap. I would love to do a rack and pinion steering on the car, but those are all several $1,000s a pop. And I can tell you that most everything you see here has been a budget build, just with leftover play money and a lot of wrench twisting and sweat equity and doing the work myself and fixing it up myself. So I take a lot of pride in that. I hope you can see that in my work. I hope you can see that in these videos. And I really appreciate the support you guys are giving me. And so the only thing I would ask in return is I would really love it if you hit the like button, if you subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram. You'll see more pictures of this car. You'll see more pictures of my other projects, even some non-automotive projects. I love fixing everything. It's just what I do. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining in. Have a great day. Take care.